Okay. Okay. I guess hello. Um, and so I'm starting this channel with the idea of sort of documenting the process that it takes or the process that I'll go through as someone who doesn't really know anything about game development. Um, and yeah, just kind of see like where it goes. Um, I have a programming background, but I haven't really done much in terms of game development. I've messed around in Unreal Engine and also Blender. Okay. Um, so yeah, nothing really like massive. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to see uh, if I can complete this project. Um, so I have a really like good idea of what I want to do. I think it is a little bit ambitious for a first time project or for a first like full project. So we'll see. The things I want to discuss today, at least for this stream, is the like overview of the game, kind of like a overview of what I want to do in terms of the game, and then also the development plan, how I'm gonna approach it, like how like I'll go over it, and then also the content plan and why I want to make content, and then I wanted to finish some of the planning as I've already started with some of it. I wanted to finish some of it, but uh, I had some stream issues setting up, and then yeah, so it's gonna. I probably won't do that today because it's a little late already where I am. So yeah, so I guess let's get started with the game idea, the overview. It's quite elaborate. I probably won't go over everything. I'll just give you like a general idea, and then we can like we'll discuss it as we keep streaming and as we go into it. So basically, the idea is sort of like an open world RPG game. Um, I really enjoy the idea of like rebuilding a society that collapsed due to like a zombie outbreak. So for example, like I really enjoy The Walking Dead, and yeah, I enjoy having like discussions around how you know how I would go about like surviving and stuff. So I want to keep it sort of realistic-ish. Yeah, so basically we have a society that's fallen due to a zombie outbreak, and the player must rebuild it while clearing zombies from locations that could otherwise be inhabited. The the elements I want to incorporate are base building, city building, crafting, survival, things like this. Yeah, so I'll draw inspiration from various existing games, most likely, things I like in those games or how they do it, and then incorporate it or a version of it into this game. The gameplay overview would be we have like a starting point. I would like a randomly generated world, or at least to some degree, a tutorial area, or like a basic, yeah, let's just call it a tutorial area. I have an idea in my head. I don't think I've fleshed it out as much, but basically, what I want to do is the player would spawn in an area, like a tutorial area where they will engage with basic mechanics, almost like how Helldivers does it. I think they have this little area where you go through various things that like teach you how to engage with the game mechanics. Yeah. So from after the tutorial, I want it to be open. The player is able to explore and begin wherever they want. I've gone further in planning to think about maybe completely opening up the starting point, maybe something like Ark, where you get to choose where you spawn. And depending on where you spawn, it'll be either a lot more difficult or easier. But we'll see. So we'll have base building, city building. The base building that I want to basically have is sort of more elementary base building for early game. So it'll be like a hideout. Like you as a player can create a hideout with your basic tools, and then as you go along, you will grow your base into like an actual bigger city. This is where the city building part comes in. So in the beginning, you will just have like a bed or yeah, whatever is in the base. So it'll serve as your initial hub, yeah. Then in terms of city building, it'll basically be a progression from base to city, which would be the logical flow in my head if you know, like zombies were a real thing and the downfall of civilization actually happened. I feel like you would probably start with something relatively small, occupying a small area or whatever, and then growing that area as you like become more advanced again. So what would tie into this is things I would like to call encampments. It's basically like a small area that you would clear, and then you can inhabit it, which would provide some kind of resource, sort of like an outpost. Yeah, sort of like an outpost. Obviously, I'm not tied to the namings yet. This is just like very rough planning. Encampments or outposts that could provide you with food in the early game, and they can have specializations, and yeah, they can be occupied by NPCs as well, if you are actually able to convert the NPCs. Then in the terms of city development, it'll basically be like you go into a city and start clearing smaller developments inside the city. For example, you would clear a diner or a small restaurant, or a hospital, and so on and so on. And it would form part of your city and actually give you these benefits. For example, if you clear a diner or a restaurant, you would get some food, as long as you have NPCs to run it. And yeah, I think you kind of get the idea. So I want it, like I said, to be rather realistic. I'm gonna try my best to really think about whether or at which point realism becomes tedium. So I don't want to make it so realistic that it's just a chore to play, but I do want to have more realistic aspects. Yeah. Then in terms of crafting, it's just basic crafting, like tools, building upgrades, or weapons, and so on. Advanced crafting unlocks as you progress through the game. Then in terms of survival mechanics, you will have to manage your health, stamina, and then resources like food and water. Um, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts around the food and water mechanic or managing your food and water. Like I said, I don't want to make it too tedious where you're basically always having like 2 or 3 slots in your inventory that's dedicated to food and water, which will then like impact your like looting. I think there's a better way to do this. Maybe we have a dedicated like food bag or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll see how it progresses. And then I would like the environment to change, or at least provide some challenges like weather, like maybe it's raining, and then there are certain things that happen or can happen, and then also random horde encounters. So I want to have roaming hordes, which you will see, but as you explore, you might run into an unexpected horde, and that could offer some challenge. In terms of NPCs, I want you to, like the player, to recruit them by helping them in the world, and then they will come stay in your encampment or city, provided that they have safety. Safety would be the core mechanic around your NPCs, I think, meaning as long as you provide them with a safe environment, they will continue working there or living in your city or encampment. So, for example, if you have a small city or a small encampment and there are walls and it's defended and there's a bed for them, they will sleep there and they will engage with whatever you decide to assign this encampment or outpost to. For example, let's say it's gathering food or mining some ore or something, then they will engage in that, as long as there is a bed and safety. Then, if, for example, it's unsafe at any given point, they will just run away and you will lose this NPC. They can also be killed if there are breaches. For example, I want to have zombies and other humans, like rogues or thieves or whatever we'll call them, that will basically be um, like posing a threat to you and your civilization as well. Then, in case there's a zombie breach or some rogues or whatever breach your defenses of your city or encampment, the NPC will actually fight for you, but they could they could die or decide that it's too risky and they'll just leave. The NPCs, like I said, they'll be able to engage with the mechanics that you assign them to, and then they will level up in those mechanics. I think later on I will make a nice summary, because I feel like at this point it's a lot of word vomit, which I think is fine. I think it's part of the process, but later on it'll be a little bit more refined, obviously, as we continue working on this idea, and then I'll have a very concise like idea I can communicate to someone, because at this point I feel like it's very like all over the place, you know. So zombie threats, yeah, we've spoken about this. There are zombies in zone. The difficulty will increase with each zone's advancement. Again, think about sort of arc, if you've played that. Horde encounters, we have random hordes. NPC deaths, if the zombies breach, NPC casualties can occur. Buildings. So again, this is the part of realism I'm talking about, where buildings and equipment, for instance, can degrade over time due to weathering and use. And I want there to be some manual engagement with it, and then later on you can automate it. So with this game, I want the focus to be rebuilding a functional civilization. and the focus should be around humans, and then like working together, humans working together. For example, in a lot of automation games, you can obviously automate things with machinery and so on. But with this, I want you to be able to automate almost everything through a very efficient civilization. You have your people who are like repairing cables or working in the restaurant, cleaning the restaurant, things like this. They all have a duty, and yeah. In terms of progression and replayability, the progression is very. I want it to be linear in terms of upgrading and like playing through the story or through the game, and then later on, I think I want to add a victory condition so you can play to the victory condition. For example, uh, the things that are in my head at the moment are things like you build your city and you have a full like quest book that you can go through that will sort of guide you towards completing your city, or a city, a functional society, and then maybe when you're ready, you can say, okay, I want to test my civilization. I want to test the efficiency of everyone there by going through like a set of tests or something like challenges. For example, there will be whenever you decide, okay, I want to go like I want to try and finish the game. It will set off a series of challenges. For example, I'm this is just coming to me at like in the moment. Maybe like a drought. How can your city handle a drought? Less water, and then maybe like paired with extreme heat or any weather condition that is challenging, and then being bombarded with hordes of zombies or thieves or both, and just a series of challenges that would test every individual thing that you should have built or should have perfected, I guess, in your society. Then I guess in terms of replayability, I am thinking you can either continue after you finish the game with the same save, and you can just survive like indefinitely. Maybe it's like I think I noted this down somewhere else, but maybe having something like farmable dungeons, something where as a player you just wanna, like, let's say you don't want to do city management or whatever, you just want to shoot some zombies, right? You go into this dungeon and you keep clearing the dungeons. You get small rewards that you can use to like maybe upgrade even more. There maybe we add a tier after a victory that or something. This is something that I'm thinking of. Then the other thing I want to do is procedurally generated worlds. In terms of replayability, procedurally generated worlds, meaning every time you play, the world's completely different, and you might have a new set of challenges every time, which I think could be interesting. And then also a customizable character. So I said backstories here, but I actually think I did write this down somewhere else. It's basically each character. I'll show it at some point. I have ideas for different characters. At the moment, I think I have 13 different character types. For example, you'll have like an artist, an engineer, a doctor, or and then each one of them will have early game buff, an early game buff, and a late game buff as well. So, for example, I'm thinking the doctor will, in the early game, he will have access to like basic medicine a little bit earlier than the rest, and later on he'll like your hospitals will be extremely like buffed or efficient, maybe something like a 200% increased recovery time or something like this. Yeah, this is just something I'm thinking of. I think that could be cool because I think it would be cool playing from different perspectives, I guess, right? I think that's pretty cool. And then also, yeah, varying starting conditions. I think this is like it ties in with the procedurally generated worlds and your customizable character. Progression system will have skills and character growth. The game features a level up system where players and NPCs improve at tasks as they perform them. So I said there's no skill tree, but I've been thinking about this and maybe I want a skill tree. See, but the problem is maybe I don't want a skill tree. The thing that I'm thinking of is maybe instead of having a skill tree, whatever skill you engage with or whatever skill you practice, you will become better at it. I'm not sure if you'd be familiar, but there's a like back in the day on 7 Days to Die, there was basically the more you used weapons, I think if I remember correctly, it was something like this. The more you used weapons, the better you became at the weapons, and you kind of unlocked your levels, and you could craft better of the weapon that you're using. So maybe a similar thing. I think that would be cool because it also kind of reflects real life. The more you interact or do something, the better you become at it. And then technological advancements. We will have a research tree, so you could track your research, reflecting real life logic without being tedious. Players can gain significant boosts by recruiting specialized NPCs such as electricians or engineers who unlock advanced technologies, example turrets, or better like miners or whatever. Research occurs passively with a dedicated research team requiring resources. A research tree unlocks upgrades like improved cooking methods or better smelting efficiency. Blueprints enhance existing tools and structures but are not a barrier to unlocking new technology. So in terms of blueprints, I want blueprints to add a different layer to the research tree, but not impacting the research tree. I want the research tree to be like something that you can just do, something you can just spend time researching, or your NPCs can spend time researching. And I want the blueprints to add value to it without making the blueprint something you have to get. It'll add something nice or something cool, but it wouldn't like you don't have to get blueprints. But it will add some like power or whatever. But I don't want it to be, yeah, like you don't need to get it. Resource management. So scarcity, resource gathering follows logical regeneration rules when done manually. For instance, mined iron does not regenerate, but trees can be replanted to sustain wood supplies. Encampments bypass natural resource generation by passively gathering resources within their zones. This balances their immobility by allowing players to gather resources more efficiently when working manually. Resources are introduced progressively through zones, matching the player's advancement needs. So I want this for example, the encampments. I want the encampments to bypass the realism, because I feel like if you have an encampment that you cannot move and you actually use the resources, or they actually deplete the resources that they gather in the area, at some point it will be depleted and then you can't move them. And then they kind of become useless. Maybe it's cool because it actually gives you a flow into a bigger city, meaning you would at some point ditch the encampments because you have like sophisticated mines, right? Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll make the encampments deplete resources. Yeah, maybe. And then logistics and supply chains. Encampments automatically transport resources to the player's base, but transportation may involve delays influenced by travel distance and risks such as bandit or zombie encounters. Players can assign security squads to protect resource transports. So I want the encampments to actually send their resources to your base, and then you can like take part in the traveling, in the logistics part, and then later on, let's say, so let's say at the beginning you have your encampment or your outpost, and the encampment or outpost is full with resources, and they say like, okay, we're ready to send it to your base, and then you can choose whether you want to accompany them or that you just send them. If you just send them and they have security with them, it'll like the other NPCs will accompany them to your base, which is like, yeah, I think that's like the automated part of this. And otherwise you will actually like walk with them and then you'll have to protect them, so maybe it'll be like a short-ish walking distance, and there's like sort of attacks coming from the sides, and then you have to like defend everything. I don't know, it's something kind of engaging. Then yeah, so dynamic resources like ores are finite for manual gathering, but become infinite when extracted passively through encampments or mines with slower collection rates. Farming allows infinite food production, provided players care for the crops. Scavenging locations do not regenerate resources. So, like I said before as well, the ores are finite if you mine them, but become infinite when extracted passively. Yeah, like we discussed earlier, we might change this depending. Yeah, farming. I think we should have infinite food production, provided that you actually care for the crops. Yeah, and then if you scavenge locations, like you raid a hospital, those will not regenerate their resources, or it won't reset the POI or whatever. So storage and maintenance, food spoils over time unless refrigerated, while other resources do not degrade. Player begins with small storage chest and can expand into a storage warehouse, which offers exponential space increases. Warehouses provide centralized access to resources, potentially with a short waiting time for orders to simulate manual retrieval. Yeah, I feel like that's very self-explanatory. Yeah, so the rest of this is just a little bit more like deep dive into this, but yeah, this is I've spent quite a bit of time like actually thinking about the game, what I want it to be, what I don't want it to be. I want it to be replayable and fun, obviously, but I don't want it to be tedious. because I feel like it doesn't need to be tedious to be like replayable or whatever, you know. So yeah, okay. Then the development plan, what I'm gonna do or how I'm gonna uh, how I'm gonna approach this is, like I said here, I want to have a good fundamental understanding of what the game should play like and be, which is kind of what we did here in long form, you know. And then break it down into development sections. So the development sections that I want to break it down into is writing and planning. So this would be like everything here in terms of writing is character backstories, world lore. I want there to be lore, like deep lore that you can find as you play the game, or and then yeah, and then like piece the puzzles like together. Then the quest lines and the guides. Like I said, I want this to be a full quest, like quested, sort of like a book that you can follow, and then you know if you have all these things in check, or at least these things in check, you have a kind of functioning civilization. So this would be like the guides. So this is just like, yeah, like I said, writing. So it's literally like, how does your health bar work? What is it? Hunger, thirst, explaining all of the mechanics, encampments and your NPCs, what they are. So this would be probably I would probably change this encampment to an outpost. Yeah, like an outpost most likely, because I feel like it makes a bit more sense. And then cities, what is a city? How does it work? How do you start a city? What are defenses, structures? Yeah, zones. How do the zones work? How to rebuild civilization? So this would be like the main quest line, the full quest guideline to ensure progression to the end game. Then, after writing and planning and having like everything like planned and written out, I feel like I would have a very good understanding of what I need to create. So the second step would be modeling. Now, I am busy doing this, and this is kind of what I wanted to to resume today. It is basically modeling all the characters, modeling the NPCs, the structures, the world, like other world objects, animals, weapons, resources. Literally everything in the game I want to model from scratch. It sounds daunting, and I think it it really is. But I think it can be fun. And like I said, I don't know that much about Blender. I want to use Blender. I've used Blender in the past, but not very elaborately. Like I did the donut and some other things, but nothing like crazy. So this will probably be the first time that I do this. And I'm gonna do the donut again on stream because I forgot how to do like all of that, and I feel like it'll be good, you know, to learn. Then yeah, so after the modeling, I think the next step would be to actually start building the game with what I have modeled. So, for example, I'll actually figure out how to randomly generate the world, how to generate the structures, and actually build everything like into the game, start putting everything together. And then after that, I would actually start with like, for example, the like menus, settings, etc., and then also actually implementing the mechanics of like the game, the actual game, you know. So yeah, and then like obviously there are probably things that I'm not thinking about at the moment. For example, actually, after modeling these things, there will have to be some sort of rigging and uh, yeah, things like this. But yeah, so there are likely things that that I don't know of yet, or maybe I'm like forgetting about them. But basically, this journey would be a documentation of a small-ish idea, not small, but like a baby idea, and see how it develops into like a big idea and an actual like implementation of that idea. Then I want to talk about the content plan. So first of all, I think I want to talk about why I want to make content. I think for this, I'm doing this completely in my like entirely in my free time, and I'm thinking that by making content, first of all, it could be a cool like documentation, like I said, seeing like where it started, where this idea started, and how it sort of takes shape and how it grows into something. It could be cool having that as like in your history. And then also I think um, it helps like with commitment. I think obviously if, for example, I get a project because I'm still a freelance software developer. If I get a project at some point, like this will take the back foot for a little while, or maybe it will be I'll be streaming or working on this a little bit less. But once I finish a project, then obviously I can return to this. And then maybe also streaming could help with like if it catches on a little bit, at least it could generate a little bit of revenue that will actually carry the development, or not carry it. Maybe it'll support the development a little bit, you know. Yeah, so then I can maybe just switch to this full time, or I don't know. We'll see. So that's why I want to do content for this. So the ideas I have in terms of content is I want to do some initial like planning just to get my head around the idea fully and try to grasp the time it will take to finish this project. Like I said, this planning board that I have here is basically this. It's initial planning, but it's also full planning. I think being able to completely populate this board will give me a very good idea of what is to come, right? I think I know it's a really big project, obviously, but I think it'll give me a better understanding and a way to sort of pace myself through it and just mentally carry myself through the project. I also think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I think being able to, like I said, like archive this in like a video diary or a channel or whatever is pretty cool. So I want to stream whenever I work on anything related to the game, for example, planning, in future modeling, rigging, actually building the game, working on the mechanics, tweaking stuff. Yeah, so I want to break the content down into these parts. I want to stream on Twitch, and then I'll upload the full VODs on YouTube as well and make them available on Twitch. Then I want to do smaller edited videos, just updating about the progress, because I feel like most likely most people wouldn't want to watch like an hour long. Just this is just an hour long talking session, or like word vomit. So like smaller edited videos about like progress and how it's like, yeah, how we're coming along. And then one video I want to create that just introduces the ideas to everyone and maybe some like disclaimers. For example, it might be boring initially when I'm learning a new skill, like modeling or rigging, or how to randomly generate the world, since I'll be reading a lot and or following tutorials to get an understanding of what I should be doing. For example, the Blender donut. I will be watching Blender Guru's donut tutorial, and I will do my best to actually show it on screen, like what I'm reading, what I'm watching, so people can actually, like see. And then I think later on it'll probably pick up a little bit um, as I become better at doing what I'm doing. For example, later on modeling will probably be easier than when I started. So it'll be faster, and maybe I can actually comment, like say some things like commentary about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, which like I'll do anyway. um, and then obviously as I get used to streaming and like being in front of the camera and stuff, I think it'll be a lot easier as well. And yeah, I think that's kind of it for now. Um, in the next stream, I want to do complete a few of the like plannings. I want to do the encampments, or actually hideouts. Not hideouts. I called them, man, outposts. Okay. So later on, or in the next stream, I want to complete this. All the planning regarding encampments, outposts, specializations for these outposts and for the NPCs, and resources. I want to do resources. So this would be like a like massive list of all the resources that will be available in the game. For example, like wood, plants, iron in the form of ore, ingots, whatever, plates, and so on. So I want to go into this, and yeah, so I think this will probably take a decent amount of time, and yeah, I can start with that in the next stream, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's about it for now. So yeah, I guess I hope you follow along, and I'm really gonna try my best to actually finish this. It is a long commitment, so I will try my best. Okay, so yeah, cheers.